So, welcome to Track Talk with David Garibaldi. And today it's an honor to have my friend and my hero here with me today, the great David Garibaldi. And we're going to talk about
Oh boy.
what is hip. And there is no hipper person to talk about what is hip than you, sir.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I'm not. Come on, man. Come on. I am not getting ahead of myself, ourselves. Thank you for being here, David. Welcome. It's a
Pleasure,
pleasure.
man. My pleasure. Always.
Thank you. And likewise. David, for all you folks, hey, Bill Gibson. Good to see you, brother. Bill Gibson is watching.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Billy, what's up, man? How are you?
Another Bay Area man. We were just talking, David and I, during the sound check, that the last time we got together to do this was just about a year ago. And I, I was fighting my way through COVID, and you helped me along, and I appreciate that. I'm much better now.
Yes.
All right. Well, cool, man. Well, let's dive in first of all.
All right. Yep.
Should we jump right into the track, or you want to maybe talk about it for a minute?
You can listen. You can listen a little bit, and then
Yeah.
we'll get into tidbits and other things.
I like it. Okay, I'm gonna play. I may not play it all the way through, but I'll certainly get it going here, and we'll groove to it.
So you wanna jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip. Started to let your hair grow, spend big bucks to top your wardrobe, but somehow you know there's much more to the trip. What is hip? Tell me if you think you know. What is hip? If you're really hip, the past and the years will show you in a hip trip. Maybe hipper than hip. But what is hip? You became a part of the new breed. Been smoking only the best weed. Hanging out on the so-called hippie set. Being seen in all the right places. Seen with just the right faces. You should be satisfied, but still it ain't quite right. What is hip? Tell me if you think you know. What is hip? If you're really hip, the past and the years will show you in a hip trip. Maybe hipper than hip. But what is hip? What it is. Hipness is what it is. Hipness is what it is. And sometimes hipness is what it ain't. Hey, You done went and found you a guru in an effort to find you a new you, and maybe even managed to raise your conscious level.
All right, that's about halfway through. It's hard to stop that song. It's hard once you start listening to it. But man, first of all, David, so much has been said about this song by everybody, and it really is a masterpiece. It's a masterclass.
Well, that's really kind, man, of you to say that. I appreciate that. I was really struck by how killing Rocco.
Well, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we were kids.
Was he about the same age as you? Were you guys
He was
about?
like 5. He was like 5 years or so younger than me. So
He was. Oh, he was a
yeah.
real kid then. Like
Oh
a,
yeah, we were all that. So
yeah.
that was recorded on September 5th, 1972.
Okay. That was one of my released in 73, but recorded in 72.
Recorded in 72. Yeah, we did
Okay.
it at Wally Hyder's in San Francisco,
Yeah.
and which is now called Hyde Street. And we had done all the tracks basically with Rick Stevens and a couple other guys, Willie Fulton, who was the guitar player, and Skip Mesquite, saxophone player. Uh, those guys got let go. So Bruce joined us. That's when Chester came,
Yeah.
Lenny Williams, Lenny Pickett. And so the whole band changed that. So we had recorded the tracks with those guys. And then when they left, we did them again.
Oh, okay.
And so interestingly, that intro, there's no bass drum. They forgot to unmute the bass drum on the intro. So when you hear the intro, there's no bass drum, but then when you get to the verse, the bass drum comes in.
You know what? I listened to it a bunch of times this morning. I didn't catch that though. And I guess I guess we're also used to hearing it that way that
Yeah.
it, you know,
Yeah, because Rocco's like thumping away, and so that was kind of like we found that out later.
dig it. And was it a situation where it was just such a perfect take that no one wanted to mess with it and say we got to redo David's bass,
I don't know the ins
Yeah.
and outs of how that happened. That was, like Mimi, our leader, Emilio, Mimi and Jim Gaines. Jim Gaines was the engineer,
Yeah.
and we did several records with him. And whatever happened, the bass drum didn't make it to that version.
Wow. So was Emilio the producer too on that song? Was he?
Yeah, he's like
he
he has the keys to the kingdom. So he
yeah.
produces all our stuff.
Yeah.
And we all have say kind of in what goes on. It's a collective thing. And but he's the guy.
Yeah.
He's the final word on stuff. Yes.
Dig it. Okay. Wow. So recorded in 72 in San Francisco, not LA, right? I know you
San Francisco.
had done some
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
in LA.
Wally Hyder's in San Francisco on Hyde
Yeah.
Street.
Okay. And
Famous place.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I've definitely heard of that. Yeah. Were you using your drums or was there a
Yeah.
house kit in there using your drums?
No, there was no such things as, in those days as house kits, that we used all our own stuff all
Yeah.
the time. And I think those were my Slingerland drums, the same ones that I used on Back to Oakland.
Yeah.
Actually, my very first drum kit that my parents bought me in high school.
Man.
And I still have them. They sounded really, really good. That was it.
That was it.
That was what we used. That was a Ludwig super sensitive 5.5-inch snare drum.
Yeah. Super sensitive or the superphonic? It had the external.
It was the super sensitive. It
Super
wasn't
sensitive.
that late, that the next version of it. It was the earlier version of it.
Yeah.
And so those are Zildjian cymbals, 22 and 18. What else?
Hi-hats, 14s probably.
Hi-hats were 14s.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the cymbals was broken. I think there was one of the crashes was broken.
Wow. The
hi-hats
sound
might have been broken too.
I was going to ask you, I mean, the hi-hat sounds so thin and just, like, responsive and sensitive, the way you can
Yeah,
play
well,
those.
and also, the kind of the way that we recorded those days too was, the sound was very dry. It was just like a, really, it kind of showcased how tight the band was and,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So, you can hear the air and all the notes and all that. It's kind of cool.
It's so cool. And, it's probably a dumb question to ask, but, 50 years later, I have to think you never get, you must be immensely proud of this song and never ever feel like it's
Well, if you I think of listening to that as like a photograph of time, it's kind of where we were at that moment, kind of where my drumming was at that moment.
Mhm.
I don't play like that anymore. It's different. I got tired of kind of that type of construction of my playing beats and that kind of stuff, and just kind of moved into different areas of stuff, and change things up. I do that all the time.
Yeah. Yep. I remember the period in the 80s. I remember seeing your band Wishful Thinking
Yeah,
in the mid 80s. And it was a real departure from, Tower of Power type drumming that that I remembered you playing
yeah.
like, yeah. And that was a great band too. But we're talking about what is hip today. So, um, and is that a song that you guys played live on the road a bunch before you went in to record it? Like, did everybody know the song down cold when you got in there? Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of when we would write new material and we wanted to record it, we would perform it for a few months before we recorded it. So that was the way we kind of worked out all the bugs and perfected, you know, what was happening. And then we get in the studio, we're ready
Yeah.
to go, because, the way that recording was done those days was, we would play live, we would play together, you know.
Yeah.
And so, a little bit different these days, the way that we do our recordings, and, other people do recording. There wasn't all the remote stuff and all these other things that go on now. Um, so it was more of you're hearing a performance, you know.
Yeah. And that was a question I had. So, maybe other than the vocals, was all the instruments, all the solos were played live too? Were any of those overdubbed? It was all like the B3 solo?
Yeah, yeah. So the B3 solo. So Chester was kind of he joined the band on that song. And so we had gone to see Bruce took me to see Chester play at the Off Plaza Lounge in San Francisco, little nightclub place
Mhm.
where they had lots of great music in there all the time. And he was in there with a duo, him and a drummer. And he was playing all these kind of top 40 tunes that you'd hear on the radio. He was playing all those, but then he'd arrange it all with, you'd hear all the horn parts and had the vocals parts and all that other stuff. And he had it all playing it all instrumentally. It was absolutely stunning. And so
Wow.
we asked him, man, would you want to come and check us out? We're looking for somebody like you. Come and check us out, and we'd like you to join our band. So he came over to Wally Hyder's, and I remember listening to the track was recorded, and he was listening, and he had these dark glasses on that you couldn't really see in. They were really, really dark. He could watch us, but we couldn't see him, right? And he was checking us all out, and he was working, I think, also at the Bank of America in downtown San Francisco.
Wow.
And so when we convinced him to join us, he he had another gig. He wanted to do both gigs, but we told him, if you join us, it's commitment. So Mimi talked him into quitting the bank and joining us. It was a good choice.
It was a good choice. Yeah.
Playing with him was so fun, man. It was
Yeah.
just heavenly, because he's such a great musician. But he really ramped up kind of our level of performance considerably when he joined.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's a beautiful solo he plays there. And I wondered if that was, if he was right there in the room at the same time doing that, or if
No, that was an overdub.
that was an overdub.
That
Okay.
was an
Yeah.
overdub. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we
And
had everything done. Everything was done, and then he
yeah.
came in and he, put his grease on there.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you count, is that a song that you counted in when you guys, like, did you typically count the songs in? I'm just curious, like, the tempo is so, it's one of those songs you can't mess around with that, you can't play it too fast or too
Well, we
slow.
played it all kind of different ways. I mean, we've played at different tempos. We've done it a lot slower. We've done it a lot faster. It just changes a lot. So
Yeah.
now the way we do it is like the singer Mike, Mike Jarrell, he does an intro to the song, and he gets the people, asking what the eternal question is, and he's got the audience talking and all that stuff. And then at some point in that, what he says counts the tuning,
Okay. Yeah.
but we've done it all kind of different ways. I've done it, I've counted it in. We've done it with no counting, just the drum fill.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it kind of changes sometimes, but that's the way that we always start the tune is with those 4 snare drum notes,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
3
Exactly.
snare drum notes into the last 16th note of the beat.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I wondered if, yeah, I mean, it's, me and my obsessive ways, like if you counted it and, and then came in with that intro, or if it was just counted by,
We're well
yeah.
trained. I mean, sometimes there's no count offs, we just like maybe we'll segue from one tune to another. Um, the fills, I do these kind of fills sometimes that are just signature ones that go into the songs and everybody knows what they are.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
there's no reason to count, if everybody knows what's happening. And What Is Hip was one of those things. And so, that song was inspired by Freddie King's song called Going Down. And if you listen to that, there he has a similar 16th note bass line. And so I heard that and I'm going, well, this would be kind of cool. Maybe we should mess around with an idea like this. And I brought that idea into rehearsal. We started fooling around with it, and it ended up, being that song,
Wow.
being What Is It?
Yeah. Yeah. That's where the foundation, where the rhythm part of it, you and Rocco, that kind of came from that idea. And
Yeah.
yeah, man. And the 16th notes that you're playing in the hi-hat, and where you lift the hi-hat sounds like on the one or the one end, like those little,
Yeah.
it's like it's the groove that creates, the way it just propels the song. I mean, it's like, it's a steady, I think is it 104 BPMs thereabouts?
Boy,
I,
you got me.
I think it
We,
is. Yeah.
yeah, I have no idea, man. I was studying with a teacher here in Oakland at the time, Chuck Brown, and he was like really a stickler for time. And so he really helped me in that way, because that's, there's no click. So,
Yeah.
in order to make it just, it was just one of those things, you just kind of lock into a tempo and it goes.
Yeah. And Rocco's time must have been just insanely great. I mean, the way you
Rocco's like,
guys,
he was like radar, he really could play with the drummer like nobody's business. And, he really knew how to lock into kind of the groove, what was happening. And then he would kind of do his thing around all that. When we first started playing together, I would make recordings of the rehearsals. And I noticed one time that when I would play short notes like hi-hat and snare, like kind of like verses and that kind of stuff where everything's really tight, he would play really short notes. And then when I would play on my cymbal or things were more open, more legato sounding from the drums, he would play longer tones. And so I told him I was listening to that, and I explained what I was hearing on that. And I said, Rocco, you know you're doing this, and what's happening there? He says, well, I just think that that's what I should do.
man, what instinct. Yeah.
Guys go to school, to learn something like that,
I
and
know,
here he's saying, well, I just think that that's what I should do. It was
man.
brilliant.
He
But
really
that was
was.
Rocco, very intuitive, player, great, great to play with.
Yeah. Great listener too, I'll bet. Just like was so dialed into what you were doing, and like,
Yeah.
could multitask, could hear what you were doing, but still, kind of anticipate, be intuitive, as you say, and create other little things to do, places to go, but still like be dialed
Well,
into
we
you.
were, that's kind of like I was learning I was learning about how to use ghost notes at the time, and I was into like learning how to layer things, you know. And so I was working on my technique. Uh, what else was going on there? I mean, just a lot of different little things, and I was experimenting with with beats for every section of the song, so there's like a continuous groove going, but each section of the song has its own, sort of groove and sort of, vibe to it. I was experimenting with that. And so on that recording, that What Is Hip comes from, the Tower Power recording, that was also Soul Vaccination, and so that period was when I was learning the value, kind of, or at least for me, how to construct beats and that kind of stuff, and have it be a vocabulary that I was learning to play. So everything was like learning. That was all entry level stuff that was happening, all experimental. You listen, What Is Hip? When I say photographs, I mean, literally, that's what we were doing. We were learning how to play, man. We were learning how to make our music. And we just happened to have that exposed, on records,
Well, but I mean, what a mark. I mean, you got the mark you've made as Tower of Power, but that song, lots of people are watching this live right now and commenting on it, all the drummers. And it's like, to me, it's one of those songs that if you ever heard a band play it in a club, after I first heard this song probably in 1974 or something, and later in life I'd hear bands playing this, and that was like one of these tunes that would really, test somebody's mustard. You know what I mean? If they could come close, no one could play it like you, David. Nobody.
Well,
and
you don't have to. You don't have to play like me. You have to play like you. And so, I think, the beauty of what we do is, you have a way that you can play, and it's kind of cool. It's like handwriting. And so, the Tower of Power thing, we were developing at that moment in time. We were developing our handwriting, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so we were learning how to make our music. And that was like really the very foundational stages of Tower of Power right then at that time, those records we were doing, and, everything was experimental. We were learning how to do it, as we went along.
Man. Yeah, that's an amazing moment in time and in your life. Yeah, to look back at that, like you said, like a photograph, to just be able to, know that what that felt like at that time.
Well, I say photograph because, sometimes people say to me, well, you didn't play it the way that you did on the recording. I said, hell no, I don't. I don't want to do that, and I don't think that I should have to be restricted to do that. I know what so we have kind of our live performances of that song have changed. We've changed the arrangements. We've changed some of the breaks sometimes. It's really a performance piece, and it just keeps morphing into other things. The way we do it live now, and after there's a breakdown section there in the middle of the song. Now we do that James Brown Soul Power tune. We do that kind of in the middle, and it's a big crowd thing, and it's fun to play. The guys,
oh, cool. Yeah.
One of the Tommy saxophone player plays a solo over it, and so that's the way we've been doing it, for a while now, and it's really fun, but it just changes all the time, so how we do it now is maybe not how we did it even 5 years ago.
Yeah. And is it changing because it keeps you guys kind of more, not interested, but it keeps you more inspired, and, you've been playing it a long time and a lot of times. So does that kind of keep you guys more excited about doing it, making it a little different?
There's a way that just the way that we play, and it changes all the time. We're a work in progress. We're still kind of building our music and our, kind of our approach, that sort of thing. Back in those days, we used to dream about, we wanted to be a studio band too. That was one of the dreams of Tower Power. Aside from our live thing that we do, is we wanted to be a studio band. So we haven't really realized that part of our, of our dream yet, because we've been making our own records and, and that kind of thing. But, I had some physical challenges, in the last few years that I had to overcome.
Yeah.
And so that changed kind of the way that, that I approached everything. I was kind of had to do that so that I could continue on, which was totally, it was difficult for me for a minute there, and the guys told me, they said, don't worry about it, man. You're here and it's all
Well,
good. So
yeah,
I just
yep.
kind of viewed it as a project, and I started, rebuilding, my playing and my ability to memorize and all those things which were impacted, like,
Mhm.
and so
We're
that's what it
so
was.
glad. Yeah, we're so glad you're here, David, man.
Oh, I
And yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah, it's all
yeah,
good,
yeah.
man.
I
I wish
speak
I
for
had
the
all the bling that you have. You got some serious bling behind you.
I wish I had the groove. I wish I had the chops. I wish I had the time, the feel. Should I keep going? That you have the good looks.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
well,
hey, I just have to tell you that a young drummer, friend of ours, both you and me, out in Southern California, by the name of Peter Erskine, uh,
Petey.
Petey says handwriting, beautifully put, David. Yeah,
Oh, he's
yeah,
he's got classic handwriting,
yeah,
man.
man, yeah, Peter.
That's an interesting, like kind of a thing, because I love handwriting. My mother had the most perfect, beautiful handwriting. It was very artistic and it looked like it was done by some kind of artist. And she wrote very slowly and it was very detailed and, just like out of a textbook,
Mm-hmm.
and I always thought that handwriting was a really cool thing. And I used to practice writing my signature different ways. And I think that, drumming is kind of like that. you
Yeah,
know? And so
I would agree.
I think it's all about, it's art and it's what you can create. Um, that's what Tower is. I think, if I have a strength musically, it's creativity. I've never struggled with ideas or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Tower is that way, all of us. It's just a hotbed, man. I mean, when we get together to work and stuff, man, it's so fun because everybody, their mind is so fertile with cool ideas, and you know,
Yeah,
it's such a great collective experience. So when you listen to like What Is Hip, that kind of thing, I mean, that was like a truly a collective moment. We all put it together.
mm-hmm.
We threw our ideas into the pot, and it ended up being that Greg Adams with his great horn arrangements, and then we would all these crazy little arrangement tricks in there. We would just try it, and if it worked, we kept it. So
And it sounds that way. It really does. And I'm glad you said that because just listening to the song, there's not. I won't say it. Everybody has their moment in the song. You know what I mean? It's that's I think that's what I've always loved about it is it's just such a great song that showcases, but everybody in the band in their own kind of way, their own unique way. Um, you and
yeah,
Rocco as a drummer, I mean, that was always what grabbed me was just the groove, the pattern that you play throughout the song, the accents that you hit, the dynamics. And when I said a masterclass, that's what I was referring to. This morning I was just making some notes and I'm thinking it really is like if people use that term, but all the things that drummers want to do, be able to do, which is play well with other musicians, be able to listen, come up with great, unique parts, have a great feel, have great time, have a great groove. This song has all that dynamics. When the solos are happening, when the horns are soloing, you take it right down. I can hear that uh, physically that you're playing softer. It sounds like the 16th note part and the hi hat and the snare, and then during the choruses you come back in. And then toward the end, the last minute or so, 58 seconds, I think is what I made a note of, when you moved from the hi-hat to the bell of the ride cymbal, and you're playing those like sort of broken up 16th notes on the bell. I mean, and it's like the time never changes, but it sounds like it's a spaceship taking off. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
just, it's so great. I'm going, man, this song is like, It's so great.
I always dug, big band drummers. Sonny Payne was one of my favorite
Sure. Yeah.
drummers, and I used to listen to him, with Count Basie. I'd have, some videos of it and of him, and I saw him play with Basie. Um, that that great album that they did, Breakfast, Dance, and Barbecue. It's a live recording, done somewhere in Florida, and there's Jake Hanna with Woody Herman,
Sure.
that
Yeah.
that, and those kind of I love the big band stuff. I mean, I just thought it was so such cool music. Ed Soph, I heard him with the 1 O'Clock band when he was at North Texas.
Hmm.
And Leon Breeden was the conductor there, and man, it was stunning, man, listening to that. And so with Tower of Power, I also liked, the James Brown thing, when
Yeah.
I saw James Brown band the first time, and it just blew me away, man. I couldn't believe that I was seeing and hearing, and to me, Tower of Power is a combination of some of those things. Yes, we play funky music, and yes, it's kind of like, rooted in the soul thing, but then there's a whole lot of other things that go into it as well. There's the big band part,
Hmm.
where you're playing figures, ensemble figures, section figures, all of those things. You're backing up soloists, you're phrasing, with, things that you hear, but you have to keep a groove at the same time, So
Yeah.
the way that I view it is I listen to the whole thing, as what I'm hearing, and then the parts that I play kind of address all of those things. So there's places where there's fills, we do figures where there's horn figures that go along with the drums, and all of that stuff,
Mhm.
So our current arranger, Dave Eskridge, very, very skilled dude, man. This is a guy really something. But when he first started working with us, he did not arrange to the rhythm section.
Aha.
And so it made the music sound very different. And so we convinced him that he had to tighten things up and follow kind of the cues of the places where the rhythm section was and that sort of stuff, because that was our concept, our sound. He
Yeah.
did that. And it's like, also like clave, like 3-2, 2-3 clave. And so there's the rhythms have that motion in it. And so the horns can be on one side or the other, just like the rhythm can be on one side or the other. And so it's kind of all of those things that we do to make our music sound super, super, tight, just like James Brown,
Yeah.
but playing like a big band.
Yeah. It is super, super tight. I'm going to finish playing the track if you don't mind. We'll conclude it.
While you're striving to find the right road, there's one thing you should know. What's hip today might become passé. What is hip? Tell me if you think you know. What is hip? If you're really hip, the past and the years will show you in a hip trip. Maybe hipper than hip. What is hip? Think about it, y'all.
Man.
Not bad for a bunch of kids.
Oh man, not bad at all. Wow. Sensational. Just sensational. It's yeah. And it never even occurred to me how really young you were at the time. So you would have been in
Yeah, I was
in
like 25, something like that, 25 years old.
yeah. Wow. I think you might have even been younger, David. What year were you born, if I may ask?
Do I have to tell you
No,
on
you don't
camera?
have to.
Do I have to
I
tell
think
you?
I think I know what year you were born. I think you were
46.
46. Okay, you were about 25. Okay, all right.
I wasn't lying, man. I mean, come on.
All right. No, I figured you knew. I thought you were born a little later than that because you're still a young man.
Well, yes, my superpowers are still intact, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Young kids though, man. Just playing was and that song again, there's such conviction, I mean, it's you just play it without any, you know what I mean? There's no doubt. You know where the groove is, you know where the beat is, right? I mean, it's played with total conviction.
We were just having fun, man. I mean, we were making it up as we went along. And it's just so cool to be able to sit here and listen to it and have people still enjoy it. And um, so honored, man. It's just so cool.
Well, well, I'm going to put you. You were nice enough to send me the chart earlier, and this is from your book, not the book we talked about last year, but this is from Off the Record.
Off the record, yeah.
Yeah, and
Look at all those ghost notes. That drives me nuts looking at that.
it's I would when you see it written out like this, you go, "Holy shit!" Yeah, heck of a lot of ghost notes. And when you recorded it, I don't imagine you weren't reading a chart. You knew the tune inside and out by that time.
Well, Tower Power is a garage band. I mean, basically, I mean, a garage band that can read music and that kind of stuff. But I wasn't like reading music, on the sessions. I mean, we had
Yeah,
been playing it for a while, and we made the stuff up. So there you go.
there you go. Yeah, I would encourage everybody to pick up this book if you don't have it, and see this. And I'm sure there are other transcriptions in there too that people would like to see. Yeah, it's man.
Look at all those ghost notes. Good Lord.
Oh man.
7 pages of ghost notes. Good Lord.
Well, that's you know that's what the song is. Yeah. Hey, Bill Gibson. Bill had a couple of great comments, and we're just going to read you. He all-time classic, best to you, Dave. And he had another great comment. I'm going to quickly read to you. Mimi and Doc, as songwriters, were so fortunate to have Dave and Rocco to realize their creations in such an original, distinctive way. Bravo. That's beautiful. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, that's
Bill.
fantastic. Yeah,
That's really cool.
fine drummer. I'm going to have him on for an episode as well.
You should have him talk to you also about he's studying with Enrique de Almeida.
Oh, I will. I didn't know that.
You should ask him about that, man. He's
Yeah.
like doing some serious study. It's kind of cool. Maybe I outed him. I don't know how cool that is. But, but
No,
Enrique was like, really impressed with, his ability to, you know, work hard and all of that stuff. So that's pretty awesome.
that's great. Bill's a fine drummer.
Yes, he is.
I
And
bumped
he's
into
even
his
finer now that he's
yeah.
been studying with Enrique, from what I understand. I can hardly wait to hear this.
I know, man. That's going to be some serious badass shit. I bumped into his band leader last month in Florida at this out of the way place. I would have never expected to see Huey Lewis, but from behind me, I hear at the door this voice that's unmistakably Huey Lewis. And I turned around and it's Huey. My wife says, "God looks just like Huey Lewis," but he had like a beard, thick beard. And I went up and said, "Bill," and I said, "Sorry," I went up and said, "Huey," and of course, remembered me through Bill, and what a great guy, man. But
Very friendly.
yeah. Well, David, What are some of the other things from that session that you might be able to share? You said you might be able to share a couple of anecdotes. I mean, I know it was a
Well,
long time
the
ago.
main thing was that there was no bass drum on the intro.
That's yeah.
That's kind of like a big one. I talked to Mimi this morning, because I was asking him, is there any things I should know about, and because I remember him talking about that bass drum thing.
Yeah.
And it is indeed, as we listened just now, it is indeed missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Amazing. Do you have a sense or a recollection of how many times you guys were, like, how many takes you guys did on that song? Just did it, since you knew it so well, was it probably came together pretty easily
I
to
mean,
record it?
I remember it coming together pretty quickly.
Mhm.
We were just like, we would be in the studio rehearsal. It was just kind of a blur, at that time. We were just doing so much stuff. Um, I don't remember how long it took us, because we did a couple versions of it. We did it with somebody else, another band, the
Yeah.
other different guys, and then re-recorded it again, with Lenny Williams.
Is there a tape somewhere? Does it exist with the other band's version
Yeah,
somewhere?
Mimi's got all that stuff.
He's got all that stuff. Wow.
Yeah.
I again had no idea. That's quite an eye opener too. I don't know if that's public information that everybody else knew but me, but I think that's
Well, they
pretty
know
well.
now.
They know now. Yeah, they learned it here.
Well,
But I want to just, before we wrap up today, I want to go back and just say, I kind of started to talk about this at the beginning, but we were talking about, we did this show to remember Jeff Porcaro a few months back, and we were talking about the Rosanna beat and how when that song came out, everybody and their brother, you'd walk into a music store, right? You know what I'm talking about, and you'd hear somebody playing that beat, just wanting to play that beat. And I remember, hearing bands and hearing drummers trying to play what is hip, whether it was like a garage band or a club band that you'd go see or something. And, like you'd hear somebody get pretty close, somebody that really studied you. And, you'd have to be a good drummer to even get close to playing that. But it's one of those songs, I think, like Rosanna and like so many of these other, signature type tunes, that no one can play it like you. And there's just this magic to the way you recorded that song, played that song. So,
I appreciate, you saying that.
well, I mean it, buddy. Bravo. Yeah. And everybody else watching, I think, will agree. It's and it's
Well, I'll tell you this though. When I first started to play, with the band, and I was listening a lot, my favorite drummers, Greg Rico with Sly, Purdy, Zig with the Meters, Sonny Payne,
mm,
Elvin, Tony Williams, those guys. And I listened to all of that. The thing that stood out the most to me was, and this is like when you're listening to records, there wasn't any video or any of this stuff available like now. There wasn't internet and everything.
yeah.
So I would listen to these records, and I liked that I could listen to the record and I could tell who was playing by listening to the drums. I could tell who it was.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to have a personalized sound, a personalized way that I played. To me, that was the coolest thing to have.
Yeah.
Is that, like those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, you did it. On a personal note, I think I said when I first heard this song, it was probably after I'd only been playing maybe about a year or so, and older cousin of mine, turned me on to you. He was a horn player, but turned me on to you, with Tower of Power, Tony Williams, all these great drummers that became, big heroes of mine a little later on. And I just remember hearing it and having not even the most remote idea of how to play the song. You know what I mean? It was like one of these songs that I couldn't even comprehend what you were doing. It was so, and I'm just saying that, it was, as a kid, it was so over my head, the whole concept of the 16th note pattern and the hi-hat and it really just kind of turned my world upside down. I just remember going like, wow. I mean, I'd only been listening to basic rock and roll up until then. And and then later on hearing like Billy Cobham was a similar thing, going like, wow, like
Mhm.
who is this guy? So I think you had that effect on a lot of people. Cause it was, you definitely had your own thing, your own sound.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Handwriting.
Handwriting. Exactly. Your own handwriting. Well, thank you so much for doing this today, David.
A
It's
pleasure, man. Always.
always. We'll do it again for sure.
Okay. I'm glad you're feeling better from your COVID thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Me too. And it's always great to see you. And I hope I get to see you in person one of these days, somewhere.
You will.
Yeah.
We're on the million gig march, so you'll see us. I'll take
All right.
some.
Good. If I see
All right,
you
brother.
coming to town, I'm gonna find you. So yeah. All right.
Sounds good. All right,
All
brother.
right.
See ya.
Thank you, brother. Lots of love, David. See you, buddy. Well, that's the show today. Thanks for watching Track Talk with David Garibaldi. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And all the podcasts are available on all podcast platforms. So check those out too. And I'll see you again real soon with another episode of Track Talk. And remember, no drummers are harmed during any episode of Track Talk or Live from My Drum Room. All right. See you soon.